All right, welcome back, everybody. My next guest for Conversations on a Bench, we're starting to call this 48 Conversations in 24 Hours. Just has a good ring to it. But I have Christine Gillette, and Christine is currently the admissions manager for the International School of Denver. She also has been a former anchor and reporter for Denver 7, and in my opinion, most importantly, she is a volunteer machine for Denver Rescue Mission. So, Christine, thanks for joining us on the bench.
Thank you for having me. Always a blessing to see you. Yeah, I was asking Alexa back there, I was asking Alexa, I was like, hey, how long have I been volunteering? She goes, I've been here for 15 years, and I know you've been volunteering for at least that many years.
That long?
Yeah. It's I'm thankful because in news, just from my past life, I like to call it just community involvement really makes a huge difference. And so the Denver Rescue Mission was one of the things that I was just passionate about, was drawn to. And so at any given opportunity, I was like, well, hey, would you mind if I were to volunteer? It doesn't have to be like an on-camera thing or anything. I just want to volunteer my time. And, Alexa was just like, sure, of course you can. And then it became an annual thing, and we just continued it. And so our son is 11. We're hoping that he'll be able to come and volunteer soon enough. It's always a blessing to be here.
And for anybody that is watching now or might watch later, the answer to may I volunteer is always going to be yes. It's always going to be yes.
Absolutely.
We will find something for you to do. Is that how you started volunteering, is when you were with the news and then you did stories, or how did that work?
It was just because of the fact that, we did do stories with you guys.
Right.
And then one of the things I focused when I was the weekend morning anchor, I really wanted the segments to be focused on local nonprofits and to be able to give back in the community. At the end of the day, the media is like a public servant, if you will, of the our community. And so I wanted to at least allot 3 minutes of our show just to do something like that. And then oftentimes you guys would have some events coming up, and like, why not promote it? And that's a great way for people to donate, either monetarily, or your time, talent, and treasure. We always talk about those three things.
Right.
So and then from there I was like, well, I would like to go. And so it just kind of started that way. But honestly, it's a blessing, because if you don't put yourself out there enough, there's so many things that you can give time to, and everyone's busy. We're always busy. And I think at the end of the day is what you feel in your heart and your calling, so to speak, of what's close to you. Even if you give time to it once a year, it still makes a difference, right?
Well, and there might be some people out there that consider volunteering for Denver Rescue Mission or another shelter, and one of the reasons they may not is because they're thinking, well, is it safe, or what will it be like to be in that shelter environment?
Sure.
And yet, I've seen you and your husband several times in our shelters serving, and you're talking about bringing your son, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody that might go, well, I don't know if volunteering at the shelter would be safe?
I guess I never thought about safety as a concern. Maybe my perspective is naive, or maybe people might call it naive. We're all human at the end of the day, and you never know, God forbid, but you never know when you might need help from somebody else, right? I don't care if it's homelessness or anything that can happen, and you hope that somebody would be there and step up. Even strangers would come, give a little bit, right? It's a collaborative effort. When we first started volunteering, even when I first started volunteering, I guess you can look at a perspective. I was in the public eye, right? So maybe I should worry about being in the public eye more, and now I'm in a place with, I don't know these people, around a lot of people who, are homeless or are in need or whatever. Maybe I should have been more concerned, but I think for me, it's never been an issue. You guys are great about welcoming everyone, being inclusive, right, about this, and also the safety of people coming in, and just making sure that, I think they usually leave their bags at the door and stuff like that. So it's not, and when people come in genuinely, they are just so thankful. They're thankful that people who don't know them by name or anyone care, right? And that they're getting a nice meal, and they are able to sit down and be served a meal. Well, how, you have to pay for services like that when you go to restaurants and stuff, and they're just thankful, and they don't have that. They're not in a position to be able to go to restaurants like we might be able to. And I think it just, that's never been an issue. You know,
Yeah.
we've volunteered there for at least 15 years, so
Yeah.
we're thankful.
Is there like a story or an experience that sticks out from your volunteering that like touched your heart or anything like that?
You know, it's funny because over the years, and sometimes you'll see some familiar faces, and while I don't know their names, and because usually we're busy like serving and picking up and stuff like that, I think this past year, in fact, it was somebody came up, "Hi, how are you?" And I recognized his face, and he recognized my face. I was like, "Good, how are you?" And you know, it's like, "How's it going?" He goes, "Oh, good, hanging in there," and you know, and stuff. And it's just, what a blessing to, you know, to get to know somebody. And it doesn't matter what, you know, we all come from different walks of life, but it's a friendly face and that warmth, and they even recognize me from serving, you know, not from TV, just because I've been there. And I think it's awesome. You know, we're all neighbors at the end of the day, and if you can give a little bit to help somebody else and it's nothing off your back, why not? You know, why not?
Yeah, that's really good. So you're working now with International School of Denver.
Yes.
We're curious, like, how can a community building approach that a lot of schools and educational institutions have, how can that be used to create greater awareness and support for people experiencing homelessness, and also organizations like ours that are working in this space?
So at International School of Denver, one of the things we focus on is giving back to the community and service. And our kids, our learners and kids are, it's kind of a culture from the beginning. So it's more of, what can you do to make your community better so you can become a part of the community too. Not only do we work on the individuals as them as a whole person, not just academics. You know, academics is important, yes, but as a whole human being, a good, kind human being, but also for them to think outside the box. So we do different service projects in the community. So the fact that you're doing something like this, I think it makes a huge difference. And if more schools were to maybe reach out to the Denver Rescue Mission and or vice versa and say, hey, we have an opportunity where, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, where kids, I don't know, in 8th grade or 7th grade or whatever it is, the require age, you know, and stuff, can come and serve at one of our shelters. That would be a great service project for them to see, you know, and to experience. So I think it is a collaborative thing where we have so many organizations in the community, including the Denver Rescue Mission, where you want to create that culture of service. And if you can instill that at a young age, that's our future generation, right?
Yeah, you're so right. So there's this story of someone I know. Her name is Brooke.
Okay.
And when Brooke was in grade school, so elementary school, her school took a field trip to the mission.
Okay.
And that field trip impacted this little girl so much. And she went home and she said to her parents, we have to do something to help the rescue mission. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do lemonade stands all summer.
Okay.
And every bit of money that I get for the lemonade stand, I'm going to give to the rescue mission. I'm going to help. Right? So that comes from a field trip. The story gets even better. So she becomes an adult, she graduates college, and she ends up looking for her career, and she ends up working for the rescue mission, right?
Full
circle. And when you would talk to her and say, okay, like, how did you get here? She'd like, it all started on that field trip when I was, you know, in whatever, 3rd grade.
That's so cool.
And I went through the rescue mission, and it just grabbed her heart, right? So to your point, right, if schools can, if we can work together with schools, which we do here at DRM, but work together even more closely to touch the kid's heart. Because, you know, one thing, I've worked in various, I've been a camp director, I've been a kids pastor, and I've always thought that there's something pure about a child's heart. And they want to make things better. When they see something unfair, they want to do something about that. And I think that's just how God sort of wires us, right? But then if we can give them something tangible to do, look what happened. She ended up working for us.
I think that's really,
I know,
really
isn't
cool.
that cool?
That is a really, really great
that's a good story. Yeah.
Do you have that story on your website?
No.
You should put that story on your website. That is such a great story. Are you
They don't
kidding?
let me go anywhere near our website. I can't even turn on my phone without help. Hardly.
Never mind. So you're not tech savvy, but it's a great story. Like, those are the stories that resonate and stick with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
because it's that one simple experience, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be huge.
Yeah.
It's that little touch.
Yeah.
And then you plant the seed,
Yeah.
and then it grows from there.
It's so true. And speaking about stories, so I think that the news outlets here do, I think, a pretty good job at covering organizations like ours and others. And one of the things that I always wish for, though, is I always wish for the ability through our news outlets to tell more of the good stories,
Yes.
right? Because I know we have to cover the person who may be experiencing homelessness and he committed a crime. I realize that has to be covered. But for every one bad story like that, there are dozens and dozens of amazing stories of the people that we work with. So
Sure.
how can we work better with the journalists and the media companies out there to get more of these positive stories? And I'll end the question in a minute, but I'll say this, because I think increasingly in our culture right now, there are a lot of misconceptions and myths about people experiencing homelessness.
Sure.
They are all fill in the blank, and a lot of times the blank is negative, when that's really not true. So really long-winded way to ask, how can we work together to get more positive stories about who we're serving?
I think that's, one of the toughest things with media is time, and also the fact of limited resources, right? And I think more and more the media is changing, and I'm seeing that too. Even though I'm away from media, I still have friends who are in media, and they are, of course, doing the best they can, with what we have. It's like any business at the end of the day is you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, and so now you have a certain number of people to cover a certain amount of stories for the day, and if there's a lot of things that need to be covered, be it at the state capitol or be it the negative stuff, or whatever it is that happened that day, then the good things get cut shorter. Then you may have 20 seconds to share that good story at the end, or maybe not even that much, which a lot of times you can't share a good story, right? You didn't share the story of Brooke just now for 20 seconds. Like, we took more time.
Are you saying I'm long-winded?
No, I'm saying that it
kidding.
takes certain things take breathing room, right? Because there's that climax of the
They
story, and then you're like, oh, that's the element of surprise, right? But I feel like, don't give up. That's what I always say is don't give up, because again, everyone says they're busy, and I know everyone's busy, and the news is busy too, the media is busy, and so it's really about being consistent, persistent, of sharing the stories, even if the story is a week later or 2 weeks later. You're like, because your story sounds evergreen, right? It can be. Certain stories, Brooke's story would be evergreen, right? There's a beginning to an end of the story, and they can hopefully eventually be able to cover it. Is don't give up, because they need that in front of them at all times, because there's so much going on, you know. And then relationships too, and developing the relationships obviously with the reporters, and and I know sometimes we switch through reporters sometimes when you see, because it is a market where a lot of people want to come in, and then they jump in the market of Denver and they want to move on to something bigger. Nothing wrong with that for career, steps and stuff, but I think just always being there and say, hey, by the way, this, oh, hey, you remember, last month I pitched this, but I know you probably, but here, let me pitch it again and pitch it again. And it's hard to, I know it's, it's like, oh man, I feel so defeated that they haven't picked it up. But the reality is, out of sight, out of mind. There's some truth to that too. But when they're busy so much in front of them, they won't see past that, like all of us, right? And so just being out there. But I think, I'm curious though, from your perspective, only because from a volunteer perspective, I can see so much, but you see it, day in and day out. What seems to be, like what is the homeless, what is the perception, I think, that you're often hearing from people of why people are homeless, or people who might be cleaning the windows on the, at the red light and stuff. They're like, oh, we see some of those, so what would you say to be able to address that, so that you can let people, so that they won't go, oh, homeless people are blank. Right?
Wow, that's such a great question. I think some of the misconceptions that we see are, there's several. One is everyone is addicted. Not everyone is addicted. Everyone is mentally ill. Not everyone is mentally ill. Now, the people that have addictions and have mental illness, sometimes there can be a callousness around, well, just stop drinking or just go get help. It's not easy, right? We had the president of Denver Health on a couple hours ago, and we talked about how difficult it can be to get the health care that you need. I think those are some of the perceptions. Some are, I once had somebody say to me, well, I'm looking at all the open jobs out there, and there's so many open jobs that there shouldn't be anyone experiencing homelessness. They should just be able to get a job. And, I think we have to be careful not to look at people from our lens of how we grew up, because that person likely did not grow up the way you did. I can be thankful for the way I grew up, right? I learned how to work and show up on time and all these other things. And then I can assume that everyone grew up that way. Well, not everyone grew up that way, and they might need a little bit more help than what I needed. So I think that's a part of it. And then I think that there's a perception out there that people are just choosing to become homeless. I've been doing this work for 14 years. I have yet to interact with anyone that is choosing to be homeless right now. Sometimes I know you can talk to somebody on the corner and say, why don't you go to Denver Rescue Mission? They're like, no, I want to be out here. Well, that's their defense mechanism, right? They're not going to unload on you all their baggage at that point. So I think those are some of the misconceptions, and I think the way we try to counter that is, especially from our faith base, is to say every single human being is somebody that was made in the image of God, that God loves and has plans for. And that means that there is some inherent dignity there. And we should treat them with dignity and respect, and not with judging and condemnation. And I think as our society gets more polarized, that it's easier then to create more enemies through instead of doing this, right? Sitting on a bench or sitting down with somebody and saying, share a little bit about your story, right? How did you get here?
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's what we're seeing. And I think I understand it. Some people, we see homelessness exploding, and it's easy to say, well, nothing is working then, and the organizations working in this space must not be doing a good job. Last year 690 people through Denver Rescue Mission left homelessness for more stable housing.
Wow.
Right? That's 690 miracles.
Yep.
And sometimes all we see is the people on the corner washing windows.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Slowly
but surely, right? It changes, and I'm sure COVID probably didn't help with polarizing, and people are more at home and homebody. I think slowly people are starting to get out more,
right?
And maybe them getting out more and seeing things are like in shock of the change that it has, right? But I feel like it is, if we're always comfortable, then change is what happened when you're uncomfortable and you have to push yourself a little bit, and I think that's an important aspect of it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And, and that's why volunteering is so important, right? Because it's uncomfortable for your first time to come and say, I'm going to serve a meal at the rescue mission. But more people than not walk away after they've served and volunteered saying, I got way more than I gave. I got way more, right? Well, and then that changes our perceptions, and it changes the stories that we tell. So it's really important.
You've been warned, though, just one time, and you will be addicted into the fact that you will always come back.
You will always come back.
The food is
15
amazing.
Years and counting.
The food is amazing in itself, and I know
the food really is amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the privilege that after we served, they're like, if there's something left over, they're like, hey, would you like a plate? We're like, sure. So we'll sit down and enjoy the meal amongst each other, and sitting at the same tables that all of us sit at, you know. And so it's just, I don't know. It's an experience that I feel like if you haven't had the opportunity to give or serve or to do something, you should. You really should.
Agree.
Yeah.
I'm biased, but I agree. Yeah.
I'm biased too, I guess. But I don't work here. They're not paying me or anything like that. I just do it voluntarily.
Right?
I do it voluntarily because I actually we enjoy it. We genuinely enjoy it. So,
I want to talk. I know we only have a few minutes left, But talk a little bit about the Nathan Yip Foundation, who does amazing work with rural education and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. I feel like, just so you know, people are probably like, does this girl jump from job to job? No, I don't. I just have had the opportunity and I enjoy learning new things. So I'm always like, oh, sure. So I was the executive director at Nathan Yip Foundation for just a little bit, interim executive director. And then I volunteered at that nonprofit for a long time. And the Nathan Yip Foundation started almost 25 years ago now, because Jimmy and Linda Yip, they lost their only son in a tragic accident. And so in his honor, they started the foundation. So originally it started where they were helping rural schools in China and building schools. And I'm talking about remote parts of China where they write on the floor, on the ground and stuff. But then it brought it back to Colorado, because Nathan was born in Colorado after all. So they focus on rural Colorado, rural education. And I don't think a lot of people realize this, that we have, I think, 170 something school districts. Don't quote me, but 120 something is considered in rural Colorado, in small places in Alamosa and places you would not even think about, you know, in the mountain towns and stuff of western Colorado, and eastern as well. And so, so far the foundation has raised has given more than $1.4 million to schools all in rural Colorado, where they use it for, I don't know, Chromebooks, you know, the equipment that we might take advantage or maybe take for granted, not take advantage, take for granted here in the Denver metro area, the resources they don't have out there, because they're smaller and raising money will be a little tougher in their small communities. And so the supporters for the Nathan Yip Foundation really have made a difference into making sure that, you know, we who live in the Denver metro area and we have an abundance, why not share some of that love to rural Colorado? So it's, it does, you know, make a difference there. So thanks for asking about that. That's
thank you for that work.
Passion to my heart too.
I know it is. Yeah. And you know, sometimes we think about homelessness as an urban issue, but it actually is. It's in the rural areas too.
Tell me a little bit more about that. I guess, you know.
You know, I think it's fair. I know it's fair to say that there are people experiencing homelessness in every county across Colorado. Every school district has students that are experiencing homelessness, and I think sometimes the misconception can be that it's an urban problem, right? It's a Denver problem. But, you know, I've gone up this summer a couple of times for meetings with folks in beautiful mountain towns, and homelessness is there.
Wow, okay.
And, you know, when we think about students, one of the things that research has shown us is that if during the school age years a child experiences 2 or more episodes of homelessness, they are extremely unlikely to graduate from high school.
Wow.
And if you don't graduate from high school, then how are you going to get a job? How are you going to be able to afford housing? That sort of thing. So what, oftentimes though, the rural homeless is more hidden. Right here you see it, but there you're not going to see it as well.
Right, that makes sense.
So what are some thoughts from your work with the foundation about how we can bring more awareness to the fact that homelessness is an everywhere problem, not just a city of Denver problem? And we need to reach out to our rural areas also. You
know, and you talked about the fact that, you know, with kids, right, if they experience homelessness, how it affects them in growth. And one of the biggest things is going through, I wonder if there's a collaboration that can be done more where the schools can learn more about the Denver Rescue Mission, how that is, you know, or the resources that are available and to address homelessness, you know, in their own area. I think oftentimes, again, people live in their own bubble. They're going to live in their own bubble in rural Colorado and whatever downtown Denver, you have your own rural. Like I would never go to your neighborhood and go shopping for groceries. I mean, I have my own bubble, right? Like the neighborhood you live in, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So you become comfortable, so you don't want to get out of that bubble. I think it's the challenge. If anything, we can challenge people to think outside of their bubble, outside the box a little bit. But I wonder if there's more that can be done, you know, for the Nathan Yip Foundation and for nonprofits to collaborate, right? So we are, the Nathan Yip Foundation is already out there in rural Colorado. why couldn't we bring more information on homelessness as an issue? Why couldn't, we do it together? And the same token of you guys, focusing and raising awareness. Hey, in rural Colorado, that makes a big difference too. Don't just think here. I mean, it can expand to other areas, but I think it's collaboration. So often they talk about just keep your eye on your own lane and don't focus on others. I get that, so there's no comparison. But at the same time, if we open our lenses more so where we can see other people, there's so many other organizations that we can collaborate on. So you don't have, you're not on, like doing the same things, if you will. So why not collaborate and then do it together? So I think that can, make a difference.
Because we're stronger together when we each take our strengths.
Exactly. Rather than one person doing this, one person, doing that. But I love, just the growth I've seen overall within Rescue Mission and how much you guys are doing. Even doing this, I think, makes a huge difference to honor World Homeless Day, right? Which is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
So you are actually going to sit here and go through 24 hours of...
That's the plan. There are there's a couple hours in the middle of the night where we don't have any live guests, so we have some pre-recorded things, and that's where I'm going to see if I can nap just a little bit, because I'm not getting any younger. So this is sitting on a bench for 24 hours.
This is the challenge. Outside of your comfort zone.
That's right.
So it changes you.
It does change me. This is changing me. That's right.
From a different perspective. But I think it's great to do things like this. Really helps bring awareness and from all these different perspectives, right? And from people with different positions, different walks of life, to be able to come in and share. So what's next on the agenda for Denver Rescue Mission? I think you guys have, you always have something going on.
Right.
After this, will you guys be doing, I think a lot of people don't realize, because I serve only on the holidays. Those are the days that I have off because I work. So I'm always like, okay, I can, at least do it right before and all that stuff. But you guys serve it every day. Meals.
It's not lost on me how the tables have turned and you're interviewing me now. So I would say, in the minute that we have left, what's next? We're working with our board on a new strategic plan to really ask and answer the question of what do the next 5 years look like, 10 years look like, what's ours to do. And I think that we're having some really great conversations. One of the things that's already come out of this, and the plan's not done yet, is we've launched a prevention division. We're working with 2 school districts in a pilot program where we have caseworkers that are really experienced in working with families that are not yet homeless, but the school has helped identify the fact that they are very close to becoming homeless.
Got it.
And our work then is to say, how do we make sure that family never becomes homeless? Because once a family becomes homeless, it will take tens and tens of thousands of dollars to get them out, and it'll probably take a couple of years. But if we can get upstream before they become homeless and make sure they never become homeless, that child is going to finish school. They're not going to become the 45-year-old at Denver Rescue Mission down the road that's experiencing homelessness. So that's just maybe a little tease of where we're going. So yeah.
Good for you guys.
So
I
Christine,
love it.
Thank you so much for coming on the bench.
Always a blessing to
for
see
this
you.
conversation,
Thank
and I'm sure I'll see you serving at the mission at some point.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you
Good
so
to see
much.
you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
All right. And we'll be back.